Hello Redbird Ranch Neighborhood Watch page members. This is the 2019 year in review. Before we begin, I got some caveats to cover. First, the information within this presentation is strictly based upon online Bexar County reporting and neighborhood social media posts. Second, this presentation is meant for informational purposes only, and due to the nature of social media, its accuracy is not 100% verified. I'll also caveat on 1 and 2 by saying this. Medina County does not post its incidents online like Bexar County does. So if it's not on social media, then we don't know about it. So this brief may not have all the incidents associated with Redbird Ranch. Lastly, this presentation is not intended to target anyone for any purpose, but does disclose publicly available information regarding sex offenders registered within 3 miles of Redbird Ranch, as per the online Texas DPS Public Registry database. So before we get into the substance of our briefing, here's our agenda. We're going to cover all incidents by street, the intrusive incidents, and I will define what intrusive means, so don't worry. Incident statistics, the percentages, patterns and trends, days of the weeks for certain types of incidents. Texas registered sex offender data, as discussed on caveat 3. And then we will go over and jump back and forth between ArcGIS and our slide for the light survey map that we did in the summer of 2019. This was before the HOA did the solar upgrades. And then lastly, because it is a hot topic and people keep bringing it up on the other pages, I'm going to talk about the projected growth and impacts. Done a lot of research and pulled some various maps with various permits and sales of land and stuff, and I've overlapped those maps to try and define maybe what Redbird Ranch will look like in 20 years. This map of Redbird Ranch reflects where all 123 incidents or crimes occurred on. Now, the color code legend on the bottom left-hand side of your screen tells you how many incidents occurred on a particular street. If you were looking for a particular incident or a particular street and you want to see what those incident details were, just go into the search bar on the Redbird Ranch Neighborhood Watch page, type in the street name, and the incidents along that street for as long as the web page has existed will pop up, and you can scroll through and sort through those. Now, this map here shows only the streets in which an intrusive incident occurred on. This is the map that I am mainly concerned with when looking for patterns and trends in an effort to work with local sheriff department or neighborhood watch block leaders or anything in regards to trying to stop crime, because this shows us where the external sources to stealing our property occurs at. Again, the legend on the lower left-hand screen shows you the number of incidents on a particular street. Here are the statistics. The upper left chart shows you the day of the week those 123 known and reported incidents occurred. The upper right chart shows you what types of incidents they were and then combines theft and burglaries into intrusive. And then we filtered out for intrusive identity theft and reports of missing trash cans. We only counted incidents in which somebody physically targeted a vehicle or a home to take something, or burglarized a home and didn't take something, but there was an external source going in with the intent to take something. That lower left chart, the day of the week incidents occurred by type with the percentages, shows you how often it occurred. So you can look at the intrusive row, because that's what I'm mainly concerned about, where it says 50% of those intrusive incidents occurred on a Wednesday or Thursday night. The rest of the week was not safe from intrusive incidents, but Wednesday and Thursday nights accounted for 50% or plus of all the intrusive incidents. I'm going to show you, break away from here real quick to show you kind of where we get that data from, and that is right here. So over the years, we just started tracking the known and reported incidents by monitoring social media, as well as watching the Bexar County reports and doing the best we can with the Medina side. Here we break it down by street. This is the 2019 roll-up. We break it down by street, type, day of the week, and then, of course, months. And then all that data is crunched into here. And Bexar County this year did something different they didn't do last year. They started, instead of just saying theft on a street, they said theft, ID theft, theft, stolen construction materials, or theft, burglary, vehicle. So that allowed us to determine that new category, intrusive. We applied intrusive to the other years this year, but it was a skewed category because we don't really have the breakdown. So though it looks like over here crime may have come down for intrusive crimes, we really just didn't know if it rose or not. But when we broke down those numbers, intrusive crimes accounted for 3.47% of all 1,900 homes. So still, the crime rate to being targeted by somebody coming in to take something from you is about 3.5%, which is still pretty low. Every year I posted a year in review, we have addressed registered sex offenders. It's always been a sensitive subject, and this year it's an even more sensitive subject because an icon actually was populated in our area. That icon popped up as a moderate risk, and as per the lower right-hand corner of the screen, a moderate risk is defined as this risk level signifies that an offender poses a moderate risk to the community and again may engage in criminal sexual conduct. I want to reiterate, this briefing is not intended to target anyone. So if you want more details on this specific case, you need to go to that website listed on the bottom of your screen and look it up for yourself. This briefing is not intended to target anybody. However, we do recognize that it's publicly available information for a reason. The rest of the slide has a low risk in the Ladera area and then not reported types of risks as we get further down Petranco Road. Earlier in the year, myself and my wife, we did a light survey of as many street lamps in the neighborhood that we could find. And street lamps are going up every day probably because the construction continues to go. But we drove around the neighborhood and we found as many street lamps as we could and took lux readings. The results of that, I'm going to switch out and go to ArcGIS Online. Let me turn this to a nighttime view. Is we determined, if you see all this, we noticed that the newer part of the neighborhood had brighter lights than the older part of the neighborhood. And that makes sense because the older part of the neighborhood's about 10 or over 10 years old, right? However, we did notice like these bright spots were replaced bulbs, recently replaced, probably within the last year or two, had brighter bulbs than the older spots, which were not very bright at all. We found no correlation of crime in dark areas versus light areas because overall the neighborhood still is generally pretty dark because even though the new neighborhood has brighter lights, for some reason, if you look here like on Cinnamon Teal, they only put lights at the ends of the roads. So in between here, on Cinnamon Teal, in between those two lights, it's really, really dark. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out. We also found out that the brightest lights in the neighborhood were at the new amenity center, which you had some really intense lights. But those were HOA paid for versus the CPS lights city paid for were much lower readings. And then of course the old amenity center had pretty dark lights because it's been around for a while and hadn't had replacing bulbs. But I believe I heard the last HOA meeting that they were putting up some pretty bright solar lights. So we'll go out there later this year and measure those. If you want, you can interact with this page online at this web page below. Let me get it back up on the bottom left of your screen, and you can kind of scroll through. Okay, because it's been a topic of discussion on social media, and because as population centers increase, typically so does crime, we started looking at the topic of the day with regards to expansion and growth of the neighborhood areas. We found several maps going back to 2005 in the archaeological survey that comes with our closing documents to recent news article screenshots. And what we've done is we've overlaid them. So here's the 211 expansion. Here's the one from the news video. There's the one that talks about the QT and the areas that you can see them clearing down the road now. And then the overall plan for subdivisions, it looked like 3 distinct Redbird Ranch subdivisions was right here, where they actually named them Redbird Ranch. My speculation is that these will be different HOAs because they're different subdivisions, just like Petranco Run is separate from us. But that's my best guess. I don't know, just like nobody else does. But I can tell you that these plans have been out there for over a decade. You can see that right here. And as population centers increase, like I said earlier, typically so does crime. How significant will that be? Well, we'll know in about 20 years. Odds are I probably still won't be doing this in 20 years. But this is just more information, and information is power. So do your own research, find out what you can, and let us know. This concludes the end of my briefing. I know it went a little longer than normal, but I thank everyone for your patience and hope you found it helpful. We'll continue to do these every year, and any suggestions on how to make it better or what we can cut out and not cut out, we're always greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the page.